Now, I myself, during World War II, my brothers were in the service. One was in the Coast Guard and the other one was in the Army. And I said, what about me? I'm very patriotic and I want to take care of my country and support it. So I was sworn in on my 20th birthday, and I served 2 years. What happened at that time, as I said, women did not go overseas, only in the medical corps. And therefore, I was part of the supply corps. And when I enrolled in the service, I was sent to Hunter College for my basic training. The government took over colleges at that time to use for the war effort. And Hunter College was basic training for the women. And they had basic training where we learned all the things that the men did in their basic training. We went through drills, we learned about the recognizing airplanes, recognizing ships, and all the things that the men, we drilled, we stood watch, we did all these things that the men did. But I had never been outside of Pennsylvania. I lived in Philadelphia for many years, and I had never been outside of Pennsylvania except to go to Atlantic City. Well, they told me that I would go to a nearby place near Pennsylvania, but it ended up. After my basic training, we had to have storekeeping training, that's Supply Corps. And I was sent to Milledgeville, Georgia State College for Women. And Milledgeville, Georgia is a little town. It actually was the first capital of Georgia many, many years ago. And this little town had this college, and we were taught all the things about the Supply Corps. In the weekends, the farmers used to come in their horse and buggies with their families and to buy things and to eat watermelon walking on the streets, and they didn't even know what a northern person looked like. We were the Yankees. And one man actually, who was in charge of the graves in that area, said, we even put a flag on the Yankee graves. So they wanted to show that they were not prejudiced. But afterward, they sent me, they told me that I would be going to Milledgeville, to Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, and work there in the Supply Corps. The day I was supposed to leave, they said, no, you're not going to Mechanicsburg, you're going to Oakland, California. Well, you know, this was quite a surprise. And I got on a train. This train was fueled by coal. And they sat us up for 5 days and 5 nights, sitting up, sleeping, sitting up, and they used to stop at different places and pick up food. So there was no dining car, there was no sleeping car, this was just a sit-up train. Well, the soot was all over you because of the coal. We got to California in 5 days and 5 nights.
Do you remember what date or even what year?
This was 1944. And what happened was this Oakland, California base was right, they put the barracks right in the middle of the town, right surrounded by houses. And we stayed there. Again, the women did all the things that the men did as far as the work was concerned. We were on a base, we had our training, we had to actually do the work, but we stood watch, we did all the kinds of maneuvering that we had to do. Now, our object of our service was to supply the Pacific Fleet. The Pacific Fleet was out during the war, doing all these things that they had to do, but they needed all these supplies. Some of them never even came to port. We used to have to bring it to them out on the waters. And we also supplied the Pacific bases that they started to put together. And as the time went by, I started as a seaman 3rd class, and I ranged 5 levels before I was discharged, and I was storekeeper 2nd class, which is 5 levels up from the beginning. And as I said, we had to do all the things that the men did on their bases, and plus we had to do get the supplies together and keep records together. And I have here all the different things, pictures of what we have done. And also, let me say, when I got into the service when I was 20 years old. Now, Oakland is right across the bay from San Francisco. So we did have some free time, and we went to San Francisco as often as we had some free time. And I celebrated my 21st birthday at Top of the Mark in San Francisco with friends, and I had my first legal drink there at Top of the Mark in San Francisco. So after 2 years, well, 1 year I came home. That was after a year, over a year, I came home on leave. That meant they gave you like a week or 10 days leave. And this time I came home on a train. It was an electric train, and it took 3 days to get home instead of 5 days. And it was clean. You had a sleeping car, you had a dining car, and all the amenities of today's transportation. So I came home and I spent time with my family and friends. But something at the time that I was discharged happened. When I went into the service, my friends had a little party, a farewell party, and they invited a young man who was in the Navy. And he couldn't come because he was still busy doing whatever he was doing and could not get leave. When I came home after the service, women and men were entitled to going to college for the time that they spent in the service. So I went to Temple, and I was standing in line the first day, and there was a girl in front of me who had been in the WACS. That was the Women's Army Corps. And we became friends. And as I said, I was Jewish, and so was she. So we became really friends, and she said, I have a boyfriend, and he has a boyfriend. Would you like to meet him? And that gentleman was the boy that didn't come to my party 2.5 years before. And of course, we got married, and we were married 39 years.